To figure out what to do with your hair? We've all had our share of bad hair days. Are you ready for a change? Lock it and love it with Lock and Love Salon, conveniently located at 8117 Liberty Road, Windsor Mills, Maryland. Start your lock journey today. Lock and Love's professional services and artistic designs will keep you blazing in the hottest trends while maintaining and protecting your hair. Honey, Lock and Love is an experience. Once you try Lock and Love Salon, you won't try anyone else. Lock and Love offers starter and maintenance locks, fox locks, detox, shampooing and conditioning, lock treatment, lock extension, coloring, and much more. Sorry, but Lock and Love doesn't accept walk-ins. What are you waiting for? Call 410-970-3791 to set up your appointment today. Lock and Love is on Facebook, so remember to like, follow, and... T.R.I.V.I.A's Inspirational Radio would like to inform you that the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the following show are solely the sentiments of the participants of the show. T.R.I.V.I.A's Inspirational Radio Network is not responsible for content. As always, thanks for watching and enjoy the show.
I lost my best friend, somebody who meant the world to me. And when you left me, I couldn't even walk straight on my feet. And now my heart is broken, I can't stand to see you leave. You were a great friend to me. I'm not ready to say my final goodbyes. I know you can't stand to see me cry. This gon' stick with me for life, 'cause you were my ride or die. Angel of mine, come home to me. I feel so lonely, I miss my homie. Why did you leave me? I don't know. Remember those memories that you shared with me. You're gone, but I could never forget the thing we did. I will love you forever. And Jiba, you're gone forever. I never see you again. I can't. That breaks my heart, 'cause you was my close friend.
Welcome, everybody, to this segment of Listen Linda, the listening party. Hello, Mr. Cox. How are you? Thank you, love. Tonight's segment is so special. It is dedicated to my dad, Charles Monroe Chico Everett Sr., and it's actually dedicated to anybody who's ever lost a parent, ever lost anybody that was so close to them. And I'm going to tell y'all something. If you got your mama and you got your daddy, hold them, cherish them, appreciate them, and love them. No parent is perfect. As a parent myself, we always do the best that we can as parents, but we all fall short to the glory of God, and we all fall short as parents. No parent is perfect, but they are there and they love you. And if they are not there, still don't hold grudges. Don't judge them. Don't persecute them. Don't don't disrespect them, because at the end of the day, they are the reason that you are here and you are breathing. My dad passed April 2nd, 2020. He was a recovering addict. He was clean for 14 years. He had a brain aneurysm, and he had pneumonia down his spine to his brain. And he was in and out of a coma for about a year and a half. And then he was getting better, and he was going through therapies. And the day before his birthday, which was May 25th, his birthday was May 26th, he fell into a diabetic coma. And from there, he was transferred to a long-term facility. And I was there every day for a year and a half, almost every day. And right when COVID hit, which was the end of March, they shut down the long-term care facility. And 4 days later, after the world shut down, my dad wasn't here. So tonight, I'm dedicating this show to my dad and to anybody who's lost a dad, a parent, anybody. Just hold on to them and appreciate them and love them, because I know they get on our nerves. I know we as parents get on our kids' nerves, and we feel like they might not know everything or they don't understand. But when they are not here, you gonna feel it, because I feel it, and I feel it every day. So I'm going to read some excerpts, because anytime I do anything, I always make sure I dedicate something or have something in remembrance of my dad. So y'all just work with me, because I'm in my fields this week. So I decided not to have a guest, because I feel like my dad is my guest today. So I'm going to read an excerpt from my first book, which is It Can't Always Be Night. And I'm going to read a poem that I wrote for my dad in this book. And it's called Day 7. And if you got the book, turn to page 21. And this is an excerpt from It Can't Always Be Night. Day 7. And I feel like it's been 70 years since you've been gone. 70 seconds turned into 700 minutes, turned into 7,000 hours. I swear it's been too long. No one can tell me it's okay to keep it's not okay to keep grieving over you. No matter how much I try to resist, I can never forget or even try to stop missing you. You were my heart. I didn't expect you to break so soon. I find myself talking while staring at the moon, and inside it, I see you. As if I'm sitting right here talking to you. They all think I'm crazy. They say losing you made me lazy. I can honestly say it did break me. I never in a million years thought that this was where I would be. Life with you feels like a shame. I would be lying if I said some days I feel like I'm to blame for my pain. I feel lost. I feel like everything was in vain. How could you leave your baby girl out here in this cold, cruel world? You told me you knew I was in good hands, with the Lord by my side that resides inside my husband. And yes, that's true. But my husband could never be my daddy. He could never be you. I wouldn't want him to. And no matter what me and you went through, I still and always will love you. Your presence is missed. I swear I won't forget. And I won't let anyone force me to just quit. Now, although you weren't perfect, you were the one God placed me with. And I'm forever grateful for it. The good, the bad, and the ugly molded me into who I am today. Day 7. And I hope and pray you repented so you can go to heaven. Everyone deserves a clear second chance. And the life you lived, you didn't deserve. You weren't given a fair chance on earth. So I pray and hope you're making the eternal one count. And I hope and pray you figured it out by now. Until we meet again, I will reach out beyond the still wind and find you with every stroke of my pen. And hopefully you will love me in the end, my friend, my daddy. Day 7. I hope you're in heaven. And that was from my book, It Can't Always Be Night, Poetic Memoirs of a Grown Girl. My dad and our relationship was incomparable. Um, we went through things, me being in foster care. He wasn't always there physically, but I knew that if I called him, he would come. And in times where I wanted to call him and I couldn't reach him, I blamed him and I felt resentment towards him. So our relationship got a little strained later on in life, but it was always in the back of my mind that no matter when, where, how, or why, if I called my dad, he would come. Last week, I read an excerpt from my new book entitled Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes. And the excerpt that I read, I ended that excerpt asking, where's my dad? And I'm going to read the end of it, which is going to bring us into the new excerpt that I'm reading. If I had any doubt in my mind that God was real, it vanished that day. I lost the baby. I lost the front tooth. I lost my pride, my dignity, and even worse, I lost my self-esteem. I wondered where my dad was. I knew I had to reach him. If he were around, he wouldn't let this happen to me. I had to find my daddy. He would know what to do. He would know what to say. He could make it all better. Where are you, Daddy? And in that excerpt, I had went through so much stuff. If you guys tune in to the last episode from last week on the 27th, I was talking about how I went through abuse and domestic violence at the hand of an long time ex-boyfriend long ago when I was still a teenager. And I ended up having a miscarriage due to the abuse that was bestowed upon me that evening. And, I was looking for my dad and he was not there. So tonight I'm going to finish off that chapter and basically give you guys a little more insight as far as the relationship with me and my dad and how that kind of came about. But then I'm going to also dig into some other things and give a little history behind some more relationships that I've learned to love and appreciate and adore today. So here it goes. An excerpt. And once again, the book, which should be out before the end of the year, is called Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes. To pre-order this book, you can cash out $ Young Save Leaders. Cash out $30 and you will receive that book, but you will also receive a free signed copy of this book. It Can't Always Be Night as well. And here it goes. A few days later, after a lot of evaluation and rest, I was released from the hospital. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew where I wanted to be. So I immediately took the Blue Line train to my grandmother's house. Hey, Dr. Monica. She stayed in the senior citizen building on Congress and Harrison at this time. None of my sisters and brothers stayed with her anymore, and my grandfather passed when I was 9 years old. So she didn't feel the need to continue to pay high mortgage when it was just her. Sometimes my dad would move from her house to my aunt's house, back to whatever woman he was with at the time. So when I went to see her, the security guard let me right up. Her name was Judy, and she was a really good friend of mine. I met her while she was working in my grandmother's building. She was always so nice and pleasant and knew the tea on every person that stayed in the building. We used to always gossip and laugh, so she let me right up. As I went to knock on the apartment number 202, my dad was coming out of the door. He saw my face bruised and my teeth missing, and his face grew red as tears ran down his face. He immediately grabbed me and hugged me tight. He asked what happened. I told him about Cain But by that time, my dad was very sick and was walking on a cane, so it wasn't much he could do. Not like the old days anyway, where he would beat up anybody that thought of doing any harm to me. And this made him feel less than a man to see his baby girl beat and bruised. So I never told him about the miscarriage. I didn't want him to break even more than he already was. My grandmother knew, but she never told my dad. And by this time, my grandmother was in her 80s. She had become a lot nicer since she lived alone. I think it was because she barely had company and didn't want anyone to not come around to see her. She was just glad to get any visitors at this time. I will admit her pleasant demeanor drew me closer to her. I felt like I had to protect her. I felt like it was my responsibility to make sure she was taken care of. I came to her house regularly to cook and clean, help her organize bills and whatever else she needed me to do. I would stay for a day or two, but never too long. But I did come regularly. One day, I remember my grandmother sending me to the gas station to pick up some bleach and tissue because it was the only closest convenience store at the time. As I was walking back to her home, I was approached by a government car with two men dressed in army fatigue. I didn't know what was going on. I knew I hadn't been in no trouble, so I knew they had the wrong girl. But this time I had cut my hair low and I had a cap on it, so maybe they thought I was a boy or something. One man jumped out the car. "Excuse me, sweetie, excuse me." I just kept walking. Here go another bozo trying to holler at me. As I walked faster, he started to jog behind me. I immediately turned around with mace in my hand. He held his hands up. "I don't mean no harm. I was just wondering about if you ever thought to join the army." This fool gotta be nuts. "No, I never thought about joining no army. Just because my hair is cut low, that don't mean that I go that way or that I want to do anything that pertains to joining an army. I don't look like no G.I. Jane to you, do I?" He laughed. He looked exactly like my older brother, Dirty Red. He said, "Look, my boss is in the car and we have to recruit. All you got to do is act interested. I will give you this card. It's his card. And then once he call you back, you could tell him that you're just not interested. But just do me this solid and take the card so I could look like I'm doing my job." I felt like I could cut him some slack. So I took the card. "Sergeant Marvis Cox, U.S. Army," it read. As I walked closer to the car, I saw Marvis. Now this was a fine man. As I walked closer to the car, I saw he didn't seem at all interested in me, and that left me even more intrigued. I walked up to the car and said, "Next time you get out and give me your card yourself." "Young lady, I'm driving the car. That's what my recruiter is for. However, if you're interested in joining, you got the number. Make your next move your best move." As they drove off, I was on fire. I had to know more about him. He seemed like a tough cookie to crack, but I was up for the challenge. And I knew exactly what to do, or so I thought. As I made my way up the stairs to my grandmother's house, I told her what happened. I was still waiting to hear back from Clark Atlanta, so my grandmother told me to just give it a shot. What could it hurt? She was like, "If you pass the test, then that could be an option for you to do. If you don't pass, you'll be going to college anyway." So I called the number a couple of days later. And when I called, he didn't even remember who I was. I was insulted, but I didn't show it. I kindly reminded him who I was, and he asked if I would come to do a practice test. I told him I didn't have a way to get there, which I didn't because I wasn't working at the time. So I had him pick me up from my grandmother's house because I was ashamed of how I was living at the time. I was staying with a friend and didn't want him to see my living conditions. As he approached my grandmother's house, I was just walking up the block. "You ready to go?" I asked. "No. First, I want to meet your grandmother," he stated. "I like to get to know my recruit's family just to get more background about them." As I took him up the stairs, he explained that his aunt also lived in the same building. We both came to realize that his aunt and my grandmother had been very good friends. It was awkward, but at the same time, I was comfortable. He was very personable and nice to my grandmother. She absolutely adored him from day one. Let me see. She absolutely adored him from day one. As he was leaving, she pinched my arm. That was her way of saying, "Get him." I shooed her away. Although he was cute, I wasn't interested. He didn't even remember who I was, for goodness sake. And I am worth remembering. As we pulled into the recruitment office, the other recruiters just stared. Everyone was extremely nice to me. I sat down to take the practice test and passed with flying colors. This wasn't hard as I thought it would be. We became really cool friends as time passed. I was able to call him whenever I had an issue or depressed about anything. We would meet up and go to a park and just talk. We would go out to lunch and just talk. We would talk on the phone for hours at a time as if we had been best friends our whole lives. But everything was strictly platonic. And I was cool with that. When the time came for me to take the actual test at MEPS, I passed again. I didn't know if this was a sign that I needed to go to the Army, but something in my gut was telling me no. That's right. I got him. That's right, Dr. Monica. She knew what she was talking about. But something in my gut was telling me no. The time came for me to leave. My grandmother gave me her well wishes, even though my caseworker and the agency ChildLink felt that I should not make that decision. It wasn't their lives, and it was my decision to make. My recruiter, Mr. Cox, was very persuasive. He assured me that I was safe with the Army and that it was nothing to worry about. As a female, I would not be placed in combat, and the job that I took allowed me to work in the admin office. The day came for physicals. We took those the day before we headed out to boot camp. Once my physical was complete, I was told that because I had asthma, I did not pass. I was heartbroken. I immediately called Mr. Cox. He sent me to someone in higher rank at the office. I went in to speak with this person. He had the blinds closed and told me to have a seat. He went through my file and saw that I had my background, that I was parentless and in and out of group homes and a ward of the state. He assured me that he had the authority to allow me to join the Army despite my asthma. I was ecstatic. I could not believe it. I was so happy. But then here comes the drama. "But what do I get in return?" he asked. "I'm not sure what you mean," I said, although I was very aware what he meant. And I was getting upset by the second. My face turned red and I started to ball up my fist. "Well, if I do something for you, then that means you're going to have to do something for me. Lift up your shirt and give me a peek." I couldn't believe this. Most of all, I refused to believe that the very place that Mr. Cox told me I was safe, I was in the most danger. I told him, "I'm sorry, but that's not happening today, tomorrow, or the next day either. Find you another sucker. I don't have to join this stupid Army, and I don't know who you think you are that you feel like I'm going to lift up my shirt for your old crusty tail." As I hit it towards the door, he made it very clear. You can go out there and tell anybody you want to. They are not going to believe anything you say. You just some homeless chick who mad because she got asthma and can't join." And as he said these words, tears flew down my face. I don't have to tell nobody about you. You can look in the mirror and see yourself, you desperate old wrinkled monster. As I left out his office, Mr. Cox was walking into MEPS. "I'm ready to go back to the hotel now. They say I got asthma, so I can't join." He said, "Let me go in and talk to my guy. I told him to look out for you." I told him, "No, you ain't got to go talk to that clown. I can't let you disrespect him. Watch your tone," he said. "You can't be disrespecting the chief officer, especially not here. Now remain professional or we cannot be friends no more." As he took me back to the hotel, he got a call from Mr. Pedophile himself. He told him that he could pull some strings and that I would still be able to leave tomorrow for boot camp. Mr. Cox seemed so excited and happy for me, but I wasn't quite sure this was the life I wanted to live. I saw that day exactly what women went through in the Army, and I knew that if I left, I would become a victim all over again of domestic abuse and rape. And I was not willing to let that happen, no matter how many bonus dollar signs were thrown in my face. That day when we reached the hotel, they gave us calling cards to call our family on the hotel phone. I had a roommate. She was cool. She was going in as military police. She was nervous, but she was ready. I wasn't nervous, but I wasn't ready. Instead, I called Mr. Cox. Now, it was late, so he didn't answer. And I kind of figured he wouldn't. He had a whole family at home at the time. I didn't want to be disrespectful, especially knowing that our friendship was strictly platonic. I didn't want to disrespect the mother of his child or make her feel uncomfortable. So I called my grandmother and told her what happened, and she told me to come home. So I called another one of the recruiters that worked at the recruiting station with Mr. Cox. I told him that I did not want to go and that I was ready to come home. He stayed on the phone with me for over an hour trying to persuade me to stay. Once he saw that it was not working, he told me he would get in contact with my recruiter. Here we go. Mr. Cox called me and told me to get dressed and have my stuff ready within an hour or I was staying. Mr. Cox got up out of his bed that night and came to pick me up. He was very disappointed and angry at the same time. Not more so at me, but the situation. I told him I was ready. I made it all this way. Now he was getting out of his bed in the middle of the night to drive over 2 hours to pick me up because he thought I had cold feet. It wasn't cold feet that I was having. Once he got there, I saw him in basketball shorts, a V-neck t-shirt, some socks, and some Air Max slide. Lord have mercy, Jesus. I thought, this is a fine man. My heart sank in my stomach. He saw the way I was looking at him, and he got even madder. This is not the place or the time for that, Mrs. Smith. How could you throw away your whole future over cold feet? Do you really want to stay and become a statistic? His chastisement was starting to piss me off. First of all, I will never be a statistic. If I go, I will become a statistic. I yelled as tears flew down my face. What are you talking about? The Army will be the best thing to ever happen to you in your life. How is the Army supposed to keep me safe when it's people in the Army trying to do inappropriate things to me already and I haven't even left yet? So you want me to get on the bus and go be around a bunch of men so they can do something even worse than that fool tried to do to me at EPS today? At MEPS today, I yelled. I was so angry at him. Who? He stated. When I told him what the chief officer did, he was livid. He immediately took out his phone, and as he was driving down the road, he called the chief officer in question. The chief officer didn't know I was in the car. He never denied what he did to me. Instead, he told him to calm down and to never speak to him in that manner, or he will file a complaint against him for insubordination. He admitted to what he did, and Mr. Cox went off. He reminded me a lot of my dad when he did this. He was so protective of me and told him that he would not recruit anyone else for him again. He also told him that he would be filing a complaint against him for what he did to me. And at that very moment, I knew for a fact that he was a friend I would never want to lose. So any inappropriate feelings that I did have for him, and baby, I had some inappropriate feelings, I knew better than to jeopardize a friend like him over feelings of lust. He apologized the whole way back to my grandmother's house. He gave me some money because he knew I didn't have any, and he told me that he might be transferred somewhere else because of what had just transpired. But he vowed that he would never change his number, and if I needed him, he was just a phone call away. I felt relieved, but at the same time, I felt like once again, I took someone else's life and turned it upside down. I blamed myself. I wondered what I did to make these people feel like they could approach me in that manner. My self-esteem got lower. By now, it was to a point where I didn't want to date anyone. I just wanted to focus on me. When I got back to my grandmother's house, my dad was there. Once again, it was a situation where I needed my dad and he wasn't there. He felt once again defeated, like he had let me down. But this time, I'll let him feel those feelings. Drugs had consumed his life, and I felt like he cared more about getting high than to keep me safe. I was alone out here in this world, and it was cold. And that is an excerpt from Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes. Yes, Miss Trivia. Yes, I have to tell it. So, hi, Mama Quita. I know I'm giving a lot. But yes, the feelings that I felt for my dad at that time was pure resentment. I love my dad, but I was the victim in that situation. I was a victim in a lot of the situations, and I felt like I always had to suppress how I was feeling because I didn't want to disappoint somebody, or I didn't want to make the person who was at fault feel bad about being at fault. So at that moment, by that time I was 18, and I'm still being abused. I'm still being neglected. I'm still feeling lost and afraid. And every time I look around, to me, he was not there. And I loved him so much that I didn't like to see him upset. I didn't like to see him going through things or feeling bad, because I loved him so much. So I would always not tell him everything, or tell him, oh, it's okay, Dad. You don't have to feel sad. I'm a big girl. I got it. But at that moment, when I walked in there and he couldn't do anything to help me, I let him feel those feelings. I let him wallow in that. I wasn't the one to come and pat him on the back or give him a hug and say, Daddy, it's okay. I let him feel exactly what I felt like he should feel, because if I didn't, then this stage would just keep repeating itself. And he would always feel, I felt like he would always feel like all I got to do is look like I'm sad, or, be in this, victimized persona within myself, so my daughter won't blame me. And I felt like at that moment he should have been blamed, because if he had been living his life right and doing what he was supposed to do from the beginning, then I wouldn't be in the situation that I was in at the time. So that is where I'm going to leave it as far as that. So if anybody has any questions that they want to ask me, feel free to ask me in the chat, or comment your questions, or what do you think about the book so far. Just give me some feedback while I look for some other things, or other things to talk about tonight. It's an emotional week for me. I've really been missing my dad a whole lot. As you guys continue to read the story, when you do purchase it, you will see how what progress I made with my dad, if any, before he passed. All of that is in the book. So I want to get to some of the comments that were made. Miss Carolyn said, parents do have an accountability portion in our lives. Absolutely. Being as though, not giving too much into the book, but it was a reason why I wasn't with my dad and my mom. And they had all opportunities to get us back and do right by us, and they just chose not to. And Mr. Cox says, I have a question. How was it you were so brave throughout all these things occurring? At the time, all I knew was survival. My dad was always around when I stayed with my grandmother, without going too much into the book. And he would always teach us certain things. My dad taught me how to the importance of education. He taught me how to drive, how to cook. He taught me how to deal with men, and and showed me how men are. Carolyn Coleman, Laquita Park said, what do you think your relationship would be with your dad now if he were alive, especially knowing everything you are going through? Before my dad passed, when he was in the hospital and he was up and alert, it was so funny because when he was in the hospital and I would go see him, he would open his eyes for me. So he came out of the coma a lot earlier than everybody thought he did. And so we had a great relationship during those final days. So today, I think it would be awesome. I think that he would be free from any toxic relationships that he were in before, because when he was laying in his bed at the hospital and they thought that he was asleep in a coma, he was actually awake, and he heard a lot of the conversations that were going on around him. So people would come and they would see him and act like they were coming to see him, and they would have conversations thinking that he was asleep or thinking that he was still in a coma. But he was alive and well, and he heard everything that was said, and it vindicated me from a lot of the lies that were told to him about me. So the conversations that I had with my dad and the times that I went to go see my dad, I always made sure I was the only one in the room. I always made sure I went when other people were not there, so I can have that one-on-one time with my dad. So I think that we will have a great relationship today. Carolyn said, what made you want to tell your story at this time? To be honest with you, I've always wanted to tell my story, but I didn't have the courage, because when I was in my 20s and 30s and I was going through these things, I always journaled and wrote everything down, but I was always afraid of other people's opinions of me. I was always afraid to tell my truth because I was ashamed of my past and who I was and the things that I went through. But I also didn't want people to be mad at me because they were the villains in my story. So after speaking with a beautiful soul and beautiful person named Miss Laquita Parks, and I was just, speaking with her about things that I went through and telling her that I wanted to tell my story, but I didn't want to incriminate people. I didn't want people to be upset or coming after me. She just made it clear that it was my story to tell. And if they didn't want to be a villain in my story, then they should have treated me better. So that gave me, some sense of encouragement, but also, my support system, my husband, my kids, I want them to know not just where I am, where they met me at in 2011 and beyond, but also to know, look, my mom went through all these things and still kept it together and still was able to overcome these things. As a lot of you all already know who listen in, I'm still battling thyroid cancer. I'm still battling renal insufficiency, fibromyalgia, and lupus. And I'm doing all of this while still trying to maintain my status as a great mom, as a great wife, as a great daughter-in-law, as a great daughter, as a great sister, as a great friend, as a great support system to other people. And I do this show and I write my books because I want girls who are out there right now and people who are out there right now to know, look, she did it. She went through it and she got through it. And if she could do it at 117 pounds and go through all of these things and overcome them, then first, it is a God out there that's covering her. And if it's a God out there that's covering her through her tragedies and her trials and her tribulations, then I know that God is real and he's going to cover me the same way. And so that's what I do it for. Yes, Dr. Monica said, Grandma said, get him, you got him. Absolutely. But Grandma, she knew something that I did not know. Other people's opinions always hold you back. Continue speaking and sharing your truth. Thank you, Dr. Monica. Yes. And I had to learn that just recently, actually. I've always been the one, even though I'm very outspoken and I say what's on my mind. But when it comes to me, I try so hard not to hurt people's feelings or not to make them upset that I always retract how I feel or my opinions or my thoughts, or I always just bury my feelings and or not telling people how they made me feel because I don't want to hurt them or I don't want to hurt their feelings. And so just going through those things really it just really made me open my eyes and say, you know what? I'm not about to keep letting people run over me. I'm not about to keep letting people feel that they could just treat me any type of way. Other people's opinions are not our business. That's right, Laquita. And Katina Bell said, you've been like that for years. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've been like that for years. But when it comes to friends and family, or somebody that I thought that I loved or that I love, I always tend to not tell everything or not really speak to people what I really want to say to them, because I just don't, in fear of losing them or in fear of them saying they don't want to be my friend no more. I just never really say what I really want to say because it's been so hard to keep my real family in my life. So people that I consider true friends or family, I try to hold on to them. And I just learned that my real friends are going to love me and still be here regardless of me expressing myself to them. So before we go, I'm going to read something else that I wrote my dad. That I just wrote for him. Mr. Cox said, "You're doing great, babe. Don't stop pushing forward. God has a plan and God never makes mistakes. We are right here with you every step of the way and we will be victorious." Amen to that, Mr. Cox. You know, you be having my back like a Cadillac with no flats. And I love you. I love you more than Wingstop, all flats with cheese and atomic sauce. You my dog. Always. Laquita Park said, absolutely. Chanel Coleman Wesley said, yes, yes, yes. Because you know what? And I just want to just say one thing. I appreciate so much my support system that I've had this past year. And Mr. Cox is going to always be my support system. He's the other half of me. But besides him and my family, I just want to shout out Trivia Payne, Raven, Chanel, Laquita, Dr. Monica, Dr. Velma, Carolyn Coleman, Melanie Johnson, you guys. And if I missed anybody else, please charge it to my head and not my heart. But you guys just do not understand how much. Oh, and Katina Bell. Of course, you've been my friend for almost 20 years now, and I appreciate you. Shanice, Asia, you guys have been seriously family that I never knew I had. Of course, my sister Dee Dee Smith is my biological sister, and I love her. I talk to her every single day. She brings out the best of me, and sometimes she brings out the worst, but that's my sister, and I love you. I love everybody, child. I do, seriously. Even the people who don't love me and don't like me, I love you guys too. But you know, the support system that I've had this past year, as far as like my author sisters and my sisters in Black women authors and my sisters in the She Said Yes to Herself, you guys have been here so much for me, and y'all take so much crap off of me, and I appreciate it. And I promise you guys, every single day that I live, I'm trying to become a better person than I was the day before. And you guys pushing me and encouraging me and praying for me means a lot to me, because although I have my husband and I have my kids, it just feels good to know that people outside my household love and support me as well. All my Cox family, my Stringer family, my Ward family. I love all you guys. You guys have been here. Y'all put up with your sister. Y'all put up with this crazy girl that Marvin's married. And I love and appreciate all you guys for it. So we're going to close out today. Like I said, if you guys want to purchase or pre-order Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes, the Cash App is at the link below. And you can send a Cash App to also support the Listen Linda show, to keep me on air. So I can do this show that I love so much for you guys every week on Sundays at 7:30 Central Standard Time. So this poem is called Dear Daddy. Dear Daddy, you were the light of my life, a guiding force in moments of strife. Your humor and laughter were contagious, and the love for your family was always outrageous. Your fishing trips were a highlight of my youth. The memories we made, a testament to your truth. Your dog was always by your side, a loyal companion who never did hide. You taught me the value of hard work and dedication, and the importance of love and communication. You were a fighter who never gave up, and your resilience and strength always lit me up. Though life took us on different paths, our bond was always strong with love that lasts. You were my hero, my role model, my friend, and I always cherish the moments we spent. As I say goodbye, I know you're watching over me. Your love and spirit will always be a part of me forevermore, my dear daddy, whom I adore. Now rest easy, my love, in eternal peace, and your memory and love will never cease. And though you are no longer here, your spirit is with us forever clear. And that is called My Daddy. And that I don't know if I'm putting it in mountains yet. What do you guys think? You think I should put that in mountains? What do you guys think? I don't know. I think I might. I'm not sure. So that was a poem. Thank you, Laquita. That was a poem that I wrote to my dad, I think about a week ago. Carolyn said, yes, it belongs there. Mr. Cox, of course, is giving his support as usual. And I appreciate you so much, sweetheart. Yeah, I had to let them know how we met, Mr. Cox. The actual rundown, word for word. I met this man, I was 17 years old. So that was 17 years ago when I met Mr. Cox. And yes, he was a tough cookie, but I loved him so much for it. And I appreciate his patience with me. And I appreciate everybody who's ever done anything, who's ever donated to me, who's ever donated to my kids, to their clothing line, who's ever supported my husband and his endeavors and his books. I just appreciate anybody who appreciates and loves me. And I will continue to support every single person that is on this show, that's on my platform, that just anybody who needs support, reach out to me, inbox me. I'm always here. And I love every single one of you guys. And yeah, so I just had to send my favorite producer on the Trivia Inspirational Radio Network a message. Her name is Raven, and she is she might be. Chanel said, I got to reread it. It might belong in the sequel to Mountains. Look, you telling too much, Raven. Chanel, just. Well, she done let the cat out the bag because it's going to be a sequel to Mountains. It's going to be a sequel to Mountains, guys. So she not really let the cat out the bag. So she's going to let me know her thoughts. She got to reread it. So I'm going to tag you in it, Miss Chanel. So she done told y'all the business. So she done told y'all the business about what's going on. But for anybody who nosy, who on my page, because I sure got this on my page right now. Look, y'all be scrolling through my page anyway, trying to put together statuses and trying to figure out what's going on with Jackie in my life and who I'm into it with. Or I didn't know it was a secret. Yes, it was a secret, but it's okay, sis. You know, this is good promo. This is good promo. You ain't did nothing wrong, baby. But y'all on my page right now, y'all be scrolling, trying to put together little statuses, see what's going on in my life. First, I'm not into it with nobody. But guess what? If you want to know about me, you want to know about my life, hear from the horse mouth. I'm spilling all my own tea. So can't nobody write my story for me. I'm going to narrate my own story. This is my story. Everything that I read from Mountains actually happened in my life. So if you want to know the inside scoop and you want to know the tea on Jacqueline Cox's life, the real tea, nothing held back, then you want to pre-order this book. And it's called Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes. It should be out before the end of the year. And it is $30. And with the first 50 people to purchase the pre-order my book, Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes, will get a free signed copy of my first book entitled It Can't Always Be Night. And this is a poetic memoir of a troubled grown girl. And I'm going to leave you guys now with a poem from It Can't Always Be Night, and it's called Wonder Woman, because we are all Wonder Women and Wonder Men. Wonder Woman, it's okay. Stare reality directly in the face. Ponder all the ways to make your life great. It doesn't matter who can and cannot relate. Your life is yours and yours alone. Live for yourself and you'll always have a home. Wonder Woman. No one said it would be a breeze. Just understand with the wonder comes all the reasons to succeed. The more you wonder, the less you aim to please anything other than the word me. Unless you have a team, then the me becomes a we. Anything else leaves for the real powers that be. Thoughts are magical and they possess so much power. And to bring them forth, we have to remember that the power is ours. We control our destiny by what we think and say. Each new day should be the beginning of a new play. We are the wonder of the world without the stress of it on our shoulders. And as we get older, we know to lay it at the altar. Ain't a thing wrong with wondering, Wonder Woman, but don't lose your soul by trying to gain the world, especially a world that's cold and unwanted of a wondering but a wonderful woman. Thank you too, Mr. Cox. Thank you so much. You always tune in. I appreciate it. And that was a poem entitled Wonder Woman from this book that you will get a signed copy of. It's called It Can't Always Be Night with your pre-order of Mountains Can Rise Without Earthquakes. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. I hope this was a great show for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my first time doing a show without a co-host. So thank you guys so much. My co-host was Chico, and that's my dad, and you will know his name, his nickname in the book when you get the book. Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes. The first 50 people will get a signed copy of It Can't Always Be Night, as well as a signed copy of Mountains Can't Rise Without Earthquakes. Thank you guys so much, and please tune in for the outro. Is something special. It's a video that I dedicated to my dad. And if you missed the beginning of the show, I'm going to let you guys see it again. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Good night.
I lost my best friend, somebody who meant the world to me. And when you left me, I couldn't even walk straight on my feet. And now my heart is broken. I can't stand to see you leave. You were a great friend to me. I'm not ready to say my final goodbyes. I know you can't stand to see me cry. This gon' stick with me for life, 'cause you were my ride or die. Angel of mine, come home to me. I feel so lonely. I miss my homie. Why did you leave me? I don't know. Remember those memories that you shared with me. You're gone, but I could never forget the thing we did. I will love you forever. And deep are you gone forever. I never see you again. I can't. That breaks my heart, 'cause you was my close friend.
Trivia's Inspirational Radio would like to inform you that the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the following show are solely the sentiments of the participants of the show. Trivia's Inspirational Radio Network is not responsible for content. As always, thanks for